Now, Arabs are pooping on Christian women. They are luring them to debate, no matter if they're black or white. They're pooping on them and enticing them to have sex with animals for a little bit of money. 30,000, 40,000, 50. That is no big amount of money. That money, they come back to the States or Africa and spend it in a short amount of time. There's no exchange for their soul. And they are doing that in Dubai. African women, white women, and so forth. Pooping on Christian or Jewish women, the Arabs. And yet, people are practicing Islam or Christianity. When we were enslaved in the U.S., or when they were enslaved in Africa or colonized in Africa, they took on the slavers, the oppressors, their enemies' way of life and religion. In West Africa or Central Africa, when we was enslaved, we took on the Christian religion. In East Africa, many parts of East and Central Africa, they took on the Arab religion, the ones who enslaved them and who oppressed them. And we're not supposed to have any of their ways. It's true, we had flaws in our way of thinking in Egypt. Now, I said Egypt, even though Egypt is a recent name, Egypt. We were not known as Egypt at the time where they say a so-called Moses exists 3,400 or 4,000 years ago. There was no such place as Egypt. We was Mizraim, the ones who built the pyramids and so forth and established a religion. Now, Islam claim in the fifth surah, I think, let me see, fifth surah, I think third verse, fifth surah, third verse, where it state, I have perfected your religion for you, completed my favor upon you, and have chosen for you Islam as your religion. That's what they state. Nobody told them to perfect our religion. We had flaws in our religion, sure. And you understand what religion was that? Christianity and Islam borrowed from the roots, our root, which we practice in a land later called Egypt. Egypt is an operation. That's when the Persians and other people, Greeks and Romans, came into our land. And some people called it Kemet. But it definitely was not Egypt until they came. And so they're using word trickery and saying that Egypt was a white country. But it wasn't Egypt until fairly recently, maybe the last 1,000 or so years. There was no Egypt at the time of Moses, as I repeat. And so when they say Egypt 3,400 years ago, that's a lie. And some Bibles, I imagine, have the name Mizraim instead of Egypt. But anyway, Islam is not to improve on our religion. They call it mythology. It's a scientific way of living and thoughts. And they claim they improve upon that. And as I repeat, we were enslaved by the Christians. Now the Bible half of the message is to Caucasian people, and half of the Bible messages is towards black people. It's a mix there. But there's black people calling themselves Hebrew, don't understand if they understand the Bible, they are against us. Misleading in some sort of way. You could tell they don't understand it, or in a secret society to mislead us. Especially when they say Esau was a white man. You could tell, common sense would tell you that is fictitious, that he's the first and the blessing belonged to him. Come on, don't be so stupid. And so, as I repeat, Arabs pooping on Christians and Jewish women in Dubai. Now, you won't think the African, who don't have that many white people in there, won't be so colonized minded, but they are the worst. They are worse than we are, many of them. They are waking up. You can hear few of the women there in Africa is waking up as a handful. And as I said, in East Africa, they took on the enslaver religion. And in West Africa here, we are taking on the Christian religion, not understanding either one of them. And one of the biggest enslavers, Tipu Tip, he was born around 1832, and he died in 1905. This was just 35 years before I was born. So that's recently. Tipu Tip, the biggest slave trader. And they say he's Arab, but he's black, his skin is black as mine. And he was Arab, a black Arab. The biggest slave trader. He helped Livingstone and Stanley. And Leopold, his son, Tipu Tip's son, Hamid, helped Leopold in the Congo. Definitely against us. And so we, in the Western Africa, was kidnapped and sold by savages. Yeah, they were savages that kidnapped us and our parents and our people. Savages. Because we were from Northern Africa who spread out after the invasion of the Turks, the Romans, the Persians, the Greeks. We went south. That was the Exodus. We went south. We had the Exodus from Egypt, so-called Egypt going south. And we established colonies and so forth. But we never quite mixed in with the savage of Africa. Oh, there's millions of still who do not know from where they came. Some of them say that they came from Egypt. They're saying that. And they are. Even in South Africa, you have some people say they came from Egypt and Ghana and so forth. They say they came from that land. Many of them say that. Especially in the Dogon and Mali. They tell you from where they came from. But they were savage, surrounded by savage people. Not as civilized as we were. They kidnapped us and sold us in the west of Africa to people with the Masonic religion. Yeah, that enslavement in the Atlantic slave was Masonic. King James, 1619, the same, we had the Bible translated into a Masonic version, was the king in 1619, where we were brought, not first as slave, from people from England itself, before they captured people from Africa. So they selected few. Only about 500,000 people were brought to America as slaves. There was selective few. And many more millions were sold in the eastern part. of Africa. Timbuktu. And he's on the front of this video, this picture. The enslaver just died in 1905. I said, only 35 years before I was born. In fact, Marcus Garvey died the year I was born. Marcus Garvey died on August, I think, the 17th in 1940, the year I was born. So that's recently. Because I'm 82 now. So all that is recently. In fact, I was born just 75 years after the end of slavery. And when I was born, there was still ex-slaves around when I was a kid. So that's all this is recent. And now the Bible, as I said, talks about the end of the Caucasian shore also. But it also is their guide, and we could learn from it. Well, how you find a God who told some people to enslave, to kill a lot of the black people, the Amorites, Canaanites, and so forth, that was supposed to be the enemies of the Hebrews, the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, and so forth. And then he ordered a curse upon the Egyptians, putting plagues upon them. What God is that? And those were black people. And just like if there's an Indian who applaud the cowboys, and then there's black people who talk about the Jews and the Egyptian, and taking the side of the Jews over the Egyptian. And I'm using Egyptian because that's what people called it, but at that time, it was not known as Egypt. The Mizrahites. Put a curse upon them. What kind of God is that? And there's black people applauding that in church. That's ridiculous. A change had to be made. Why are we still... This is the time of our awakening, sure. When a white guy named Oliver, I think about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, it's recent, went to Kenya and infected about 40 black Kenyans, women, with HIV. What kind of mess is that? And then they have this thing about housewife of Durban in South Africa. And most of those housewives have bleached skin. And they're praising that. There's an agenda, and the agenda is right before your eyes. The agenda is not hidden, because Caucasian people, is not, you're looking at them. And because they say in their Bible, the part of the Bible pertaining to them, that they are sinners. And so, like Malcolm X say, we be sinners too. I mean, he didn't say those words, but he said we sick too. If the master got sick, he said we sick boys. But the white people saying they are sinners, and we not knowing ourselves that we are gods. But we lost our power. Because even in Psalms 82, 82nd chapter, it says, don't you know ye are God? That part is pertaining to us. But you so died like men. So there's a difference between gods and men. The name man is also the name of the moon. The name sin is also the name of the moon. And this is clear. This is clear. Besides, you're looking at them. And when they say, I think Darwin said they evolved from animals. He mentioned apes and chimpanzee. And so black people say because they evolved from animals that we have to be, no. You have a different derivation. They came from us as chimeras. Chimera. Look it up. It's right in front of your face, just like their agenda. Now they know the end is near, is nigh. So they have a black woman as the press secretary who's openly gay. That's their agenda, and they asking Billy Porter about advice on Roe versus Wade. Billy Porter, flamboyant homosexual. They doing this in front of your face. It's open. And you're looking at them with their dark like hair and so forth. And skin is enough to scare that dickens out of you. But you laying up with them. And they have this ad on the ad where a black man with a white woman or black woman with a white man on the ad advertisement when just 1967 a law was against miscegenation. Of course, there was people even back then was advocating in the 1800s miscegenation, white people. And there's a book now about that miscegenation that's written in the 1800s. I don't know the name of it, but you can look it up about miscegenation. But these things are in front of your face. It's not hidden. Everything is happened. The bed too short, the sheet too narrow to hide. The truth will come out. And they avoid it to the sun. They write about it, but they don't make it front like news. They write and then the news disappear about how they sending missiles to the sun. That's about a year ago. And they're orbiting right in outer space. It said the war was in outer space. The war began in space. Not fighting against flesh and blood, but a principality in higher places. And they even say that a couple of years, do you forget, where they tried to block out? And Gates was part of that scheme to block out the sun. They're talking about climate change. The climate is changing in our favor. And it's in our favor. I said in the next 3 years you will see that this is the time. The climate is in our favor and in our direction. So as I repeat, Arabs pooping on Christian or Jewish women, no matter if they're black and white, and enticing them to have sex with animals in Dubai. And stupid people go along with it. In Nigeria, oh my goodness, you listen to the stories coming to the news in Nigeria. A woman said that she was paid to have sex with a dog or something like that. What's in the news in Nigeria? And the stupid things that the priests have women to do, come in church without their panties on. And it's all over the internet. And one preacher, I don't know if it's fake or real church, he's filling up on a woman in front of the congregation. They do things, maybe comedy, or it may be real, we don't know, but it's right in it. We can't forget about these things. And all these things are right in front of our eyes today. There's no excuses. Nobody is that dumb that they do not know. So judgment has to become upon us now to clear out the simple-minded, ignorant people. I've made mistakes, you have made mistakes, but this is continuous errors that's being done now. You have to clear the world out.